Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I've got a new vlog for you, and this time we're going to go to Germany again on a road trip. So yeah, I packed my entire car including my unicorn and then we're on our way. I really love driving. I really love long rides in my car and on my motorcycle, but this time we're taking the car because it's winter, so just seems more handy. Also in terms of baggage it's like a lot easier. But yeah, anyway, we're going to do a rest stop for a night in Heidelberg though, because I'm going all the way from Rotterdam to the Alps, to Schwangau in Germany, and that's quite a long way. And even though I like being on the road, I don't like having to rush to be able to still check into the hotel on time. That's the amount of stress that I don't want on a vacation. So yeah, Heidelberg first and then the next day to Schwangau. I am going to go back in one go on my way home, but you know, at home I don't have to check in, so that helps. Anyway, I really love driving through Germany just because you can just see the entire environment, the landscape changing around you, and it's just the perfect holiday feeling to me. Now the hotel I stayed in Heidelberg is a Leonardo hotel. This is a chain of hotels. There's actually also one in the center of Heidelberg, but I picked the one that is not in the center. Just because it's, you know, an easier ride, and also there's a gas station next to it, so I could just fill up my car and have a full tank before leaving to Schwangau the next day. So yeah. Anyway, it's just a very nice hotel. There's also business people there, and it's just, you know, they're friendly, the rooms are nice. It's not very special, but it's just a really nice hotel, especially if you just go to stay there for one night. Oh, and also Heidelberg itself, it's actually very beautiful. There are a lot of cool things in Heidelberg. I'll link back to my vlog of last year where I actually show those things, because, you know, I actually did pretty much the same trip back then and also went to Heidelberg. They actually have an old bridge from the year 1788, which is really gorgeous, and they also have a castle, or at least remains of a castle, from the year 1225, although it's been a ruin since 1764, so yeah, but still it's absolutely beautiful. I really recommend going there, but seeing as I've already gone there last year, I figured let's do something else this year. And then my dad recommended to me to go to a place called Dilsberg, where there's also castle ruins. So yeah, I just put all the destinations in my TomTom and then started googling where I wanted to go the next day. And I looked it up, I looked up pictures, and I was like, yes, that is quite pretty. As you can see here, it's called Burg Dilsberg. And it's this really old village or town, I'm not sure what it is. It's old at any rate. There's a lot of nice buildings, a lot of nice views. So yeah, definitely worth a check out. So I went there the next morning, bright and early, parked my car rather far down. I literally parked at the edge of the village, town, whatever. You can probably park closer to the castle, but I just always picked the easiest parking spot and then just walk, because I like walking anyway. It was still quite misty, so the views were actually quite stunning. Seriously, with those clouds around the mountains, really gorgeous. But yeah, anyway, if you walk up there, there's sort of like a castle garden, which is mostly just a grassy hill with a very old wall around it. But it's very cool looking, seriously. Just the fact that those walls are so old, and it's just it's so cool. And I can also imagine that if you're going here on on summer vacation when it's really nice weather, that it might be quite nice to just sit on a bench and just enjoy the sun and I don't know, have a lunch break, whatever. The castle gardens are just free to visit, by the way. You can just, you know, walk around there like it's park. The castle itself does actually have a ticket system. I didn't go in there this time because they're actually working on the castle to fix it, because even, you know, ancient ruins need to be like maintained every now and then, otherwise they'll just completely collapse, which is not good. But normally you can also actually get to the top of the tower and just look out over the village, and that's supposedly also very cool. I really want to do that next year. I didn't go in this year because, well, the scaffolding made it less pretty, so yeah, and besides, I spent some time like walking through the castle garden, so I didn't have a lot of time left anymore by the time I actually got to the castle. But yeah, like you can see the buildings around it are also just absolutely beautiful, and the castle itself is also extremely cool. It's from about the year 1150, like obviously they didn't write down dates, that's thoroughly back then. But like seriously 12th century, so freaking old, and like you can still touch it and walk on it, and it's like, I love history, and buildings like these, it's just like, it's as if you're literally physically touching history. Very, very cool. And then I drove on to Schwangau to Hotel Zuurpost. This is the same hotel where I stayed last year, and I was so pleased with it that I decided to book it again. They actually turn out to have 3 different types of rooms. Like last year I booked it via booking, and they only showed the junior suite, which was very nice but kind of expensive in comparison to the other rooms. Because they also just have regular, you know, 2 people rooms and also single rooms, which as a single I'm very pleased with. The single room is actually a really nice size as well. So you just get a nice bathroom with a shower and everything. You have a full-size wardrobe, which is very nice. A little chair, or at least, you know, quite a comfy chair, really. Also a small chair at the desk. A desk at all. Of course, you also get a bed. And also a balcony, from which you can actually see the castle, which is very, very nice. From the rooms on the front, you can obviously also see the castle from your window. But overall, like the view on the Alps, it's just beautiful overall. Also an interesting fact, the building is actually from 1534. It used to be a post office sort of thing, back when they still had like carriages with horses for the meal and everything. So really cool. It's been a hotel since 1891, although it has been like, you know, retouched and everything and like changed over the centuries basically. It's really cool. On their own website they actually have pictures of how it used to look, and it's very interesting. Also, it's like there's no dust anywhere, no dust, no cobwebs. This is literally like the cleanest hotel I have ever seen. It's really, really, really cool. I don't know, like I just like it when places are clean and well maintained, and this hotel, the entire building, both the inside and the outside, is just so well maintained. I really like this hotel, so yeah, that's why I, you know, am staying there for the second time now. One of the things I visited is the Marienbrücke, which is a bridge. Obviously, if you know any German, you probably guessed that from the name. But yeah, it's actually a really old bridge. It's really, really pretty, and it has a view on both the castle and on a waterfall below. I went there twice. Once it was 9 in the morning on a weekday, so then it was completely quiet. At other times it's a lot less quiet because it is quite popular. But anyway, the original bridge was actually built, well, not by King Maximilian II in 1845. He ordered it to be built, obviously, but that was a wooden bridge, so less durable, and according to his son, King Ludwig II, it was also not very pretty. So in 1866, King Ludwig had it replaced with the current bridge, or at least, you know, a bridge that looked exactly the same. It did entirely get like fixed up in 1984, sorry. They kept as many original parts as they could. But yeah, obviously after such a long time it needed to get fixed. So yeah, but it still looks the same. So it's still absolutely vintage and stunning and beautiful. They also, until the end of 2022, they actually fixed the anchor points in the rock. So you can actually be sure that if you're walking on it, it won't suddenly fall down. Quite nice to know, because I'm actually scared of heights. So me being scared of heights, I also took a hiking trail upwards to get to another viewing point above the bridge. So I could also get another view on the castle, because that's just absolutely beautiful. And on the bridge, it's totally worth the climb, but let me tell you, I was so scared climbing back down. Like seriously, I pretty much climbed down sitting on my ass because I didn't want to fall. But yeah, look at that view, it's absolutely beautiful. And if you have the courage and you're standing on the bridge, just also look down and just literally just enjoy the waterfall. Now, last year I made the mistake of literally only paying attention to Neuschwanstein, because of course it's the most famous castle. And this year I also wanted to visit the other castle, the older castle, which is Castle Hohenschwangau. Now, an interesting fact is that both of the castles are actually built on much older castle ruins. And actually, Hohenschwangau, the current Hohenschwangau, is built on the ruins of a castle that was called Schwanstein. And the current Neuschwanstein was built on the ruins of two castles, which were actually, I think they were called Vorher and Hinter Hohenschwangau. So like front Hohenschwangau and back Hohenschwangau castle, roughly translated, very roughly translated. So they effectively switched names, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, yeah. Hohenschwangau castle, the current Hohenschwangau castle, was actually, well, the original castle that was there was mentioned for the first time around the 12th century, so just as old as the ruins of Dilsberg. It was actually inhabited by knights until the 16th century, and after that it pretty much got wrecked. Until it was bought in 1832 by King Maximilian II, and he had it rebuilt according to original plans, and he used it with his family as their summer home. Imagine being so rich that you can have an entire castle as your summer home. Wow. But yeah, he liked to go hunting. His wife, however, liked to go hiking in the mountains. She also liked reading, but the important part here is that she also liked hiking in the mountains, because she took her two sons along, Prince Otto and Prince Ludwig II. You know, the one who later had Neuschwanstein built. And what did they encounter in the mountains? Well, amongst other things, they also encountered the ruins of the old Hohenschwangau castles, which is why he knew those were there. And he later used those as a base to build Neuschwanstein, which you can see from Hohenschwangau Castle. But yeah, because Hohenschwangau is older and this was actually inhabited, unlike Neuschwanstein, there's just so much history in this castle. There's so much stuff in this castle. The tours of the castles, of both castles, are only visitable. You can only visit them on a tour, basically. Totally worth it to book, because you get so much information. There's so much interesting stuff inside, especially in this castle. So I definitely recommend visiting this. It's really, really cool. And of course I also visited the OG Fairytale castle again, Neuschwanstein. It's seriously like, it's just beautiful. Like from every single angle it looks almost too gorgeous to even be real. Like it's just, oh, it's so beautiful. Obviously, it was never made as like an actual defense castle, like not like a real medieval castle. It was always made to be this like fairy tale medieval fantasy. King Ludwig II was obviously inspired by the Middle Ages, and it's basically what they call a romantic interpretation of it. So think Middle Ages, but without like the horrific diseases and famine and like horrific wars and blood and stuff. Yeah, a fairy tale basically. And it's beautiful on the inside, but trust me, it's also gorgeous on the inside. You literally just, like, it's a museum, so you can't like film inside obviously, but like look it up. It's gorgeous. There's an actual freaking cave indoors, like it's stunning. It was also heavily inspired by the musical mythology of Wagner. King Ludwig II was actually friends with Wagner and also really admired his works. So things like the Swan Prince and everything is like Swan Knight, whatever it was. Things like that, myths like that are really heavily like, you know, shown inside on paintings and artwork and stuff. Like everything inside and outside the castle is absolutely beautiful. They actually started building it in 1868, but it was never finished because Ludwig II died. So yeah, that sort of put a stop to it all. If you're interested, do look up his entire life story. It's not exactly a fairy tale, but it is quite interesting. But they've been fixing up the castle since 2017 because obviously after all those years the artwork and stuff like paint started flaking and stuff, and they had to fix it. But they should actually be done with it somewhere in this year, and I could already tell that this year there was a lot more to be seen during the tour than last year. So that's really good. And like I said, both castles were built on the ruins of far older castles. So yeah, Neuschwanstein was actually built on two very old medieval ruins. Which is also why it has like, it's not a completely like straight ahead castle. There's a bit of a curve in it. It looks really, really interesting. And you can just tell that everything about it was always made to just be beautiful. Like it's an absolutely stunning fairy tale castle. Like you just can't stop looking at it because it's so freaking beautiful. Like, wow. Now the entire terrain, you gotta sort of like envision it if you've never been there before. But there's like, you walk up the road and then there's a lot of like really gorgeous buildings, which we'll get to later. Most of them are hotels and restaurants, and there's of course the museum. And then on one side you have the way up to the oldest castle, and then on the other side the way up to the other castle. So yeah, but that entire place is like free to visit, free to just walk around, and there's also a beautiful, beautiful lake with hiking trails up in the Alps. To the Alps, I should say. In winter, a lot of them are actually closed just because, you know, it's wintry and more dangerous then. But yeah, nevertheless, you can walk pretty far around the lake, and it's definitely worth it, especially on a clear, beautiful, sunny day with not a lot of wind, because the lake mirrors so nicely. Like, it's absolutely gorgeous. Also, I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the lake is also filled up with like melted snow and ice from up in the mountains, because it wasn't raining or anything, but like the water was really high up, so I was glad that I was wearing my hiking boots. But yeah, look at how clear the water is. Like, it's really, really cool. Like, you could just see underneath the water, and like, especially with the blue sky, it just reflects it gorgeously. Is that even a word? I don't know. And of course, with all the references to swans in the castles and the arts, you know, there's also swans in the lake. I think they're pretty, but you know, I prefer to like view them from a great distance because they're actually quite aggressive bitches. Anyway, they're pretty though, that's what matters, I suppose. But yeah, they're there as well, and they're, you know, they're nice to see. And just overall, it's a very nice walking area, just a nice hiking area. Like, you really don't want to go there for just one day. Like, if you really want to see it all, go there for multiple days, because then you can just spend a day visiting the castles, and you can also spend a day walking around everywhere and taking pictures around the lake, because seriously, just everything there is so absolutely gorgeous to see. Like, you have the castles on one side, and then like the mountains on the other is really stunning. And especially on a clear day like this, the view over the lake is really, really stunning. The closer you get to the water, the more the mirror effect is visible. So like, it's not even the strongest here yet. That's the next part of the footage. But here you can see it really well, that you have Castle Hohenschwangau. Then in the center you have the museum. And then on the right you have Neuschwanstein Castle. And overall, like the buildings around there at the, you know, alongside the road are just absolutely beautiful as well. Like, especially like the whole woodworking. Like, the craftsmanship is just amazing, and all buildings are different. Like, there's no like two the same buildings, but they're just beautiful to look at. Like, seriously, like the amount of detail, the amount of effort that went into them, really, really cool. And as far as I could tell, most of these buildings are from basically the very, very beginning of the 20th century. But like, look at that, look at the balconies, at like the woodworks, at like, oh, just all the details in the buildings. They're really, really pretty. And outside of the obvious, you know, castles and stuff, there's also other stuff to be seen around Schwangau. I only went to places where I could hike to, because I like hiking on my vacation. So I just dropped my car at the hotel and didn't touch it until I went back home again. But yeah, like, the entire view of the mountains is already gorgeous. But there's also an old church. There is a cable cart up the Tegelberg, which we'll get to later. And obviously, from whatever point in the village, as long as you can see the mountains, you can also see the castle. And it's, like I said, just absolutely beautiful and like almost unreal from every single angle. But yeah, I also wanted to visit this church because it looked interesting from the distance. And I gotta admit, this is the Saint Coloman church, by the way. Looking at it from the village, I literally thought that it was a small chapel, until I realized when I was walking to it that it was very far away and it was actually really, really big. I didn't know. But anyway, the front says 1714, but it was actually made into a holy church in 1685. No idea how to do that, but that's what the internet told me. It was built in a Baroque style. It's supposedly also very beautiful on the inside, but I've seen pictures on Google, but I couldn't watch the inside because it was closed when I was there. So I'll need to revisit and hope it's open then, so I can actually see it for myself. It was named after an Irish pilgrim who, in the year 1012, in the summer of 1012 to be precise, took a rest stop there. And then it became like a pilgrimage thing. And, you know, with all the people visiting, they decided to, in the 15th century at least, to actually put a small chapel, fields chapel there. And then eventually, at the end of the 17th century, they decided to actually build a church there. I don't know why the windows look like this, by the way. I've only ever seen like churches with like the colored glass windows. This looks more like ice, and I could not find out why. It looks really interesting though. Oh, and also the cemetery behind the wall. There's 300 plague victims buried there from the beginning of the 17th century. Fun details to know. And then, like I said, we're going to go ahead to the Tegelbergbahn, which is also definitely worth a visit. It might, as was the same with the church that I mentioned, it looks a lot smaller from a distance, but actually every single of those carts can fit up to 44 people. It's quite big. Also, you go 2 kilometers up the mountain, and that is literally just in a straight line. So imagine if you have to climb there and have to make like turns and everything. It's really far, and it's also 892.5 meters upwards. I could tell because my ears popped, like seriously. It's really high. And you don't think it goes fast, but it actually goes quite fast. But like not too fast to still have nice views on, amongst other things, of course, the castle, because you can just see the castle from pretty much any place there. Also, did I mention I'm scared of heights? Because I'm scared of heights. So, yeah. It's not that scary, I could say. But if you look down, it's actually quite scary. But it's just, even if the height could be scary, the view is just so amazing that you just get completely distracted by it. Other than the cable car, there's also the possibility there to go. What's it called? I think paragliding, you know, when you're like on like sort of a kite and like flying down the mountain, and then you do it with another person who actually knows what they're doing. Yeah, you can do that there too. I obviously didn't do that. I don't even know if it's open in winter, but also I don't hate myself, so I'm not gonna do that to myself. But hey, it is an option at least. But anyway, once you're finally up there, the view is also more than worth it. Like, seriously, you're up so freaking high, it's unbelievable. And like, the view is amazing. Like, you can literally see how high it is. Like, sometimes on like video and on pictures you can't tell how high up you are, how steep something is. But here, just because it's so high, you can literally tell, because everything just looks like freaking miniature Lego down there. But yeah, like the villages, the towns, the lakes, the view is just absolutely stunning from up there. And if you have either binoculars or a very good camera, you can also see the little supermarket where I got my food every single day. And also the hotel that I was in. This is literally one of the reasons why I still bring my old vlogging camera along, because that thing can just zoom in really far. But yeah, there's the hotel. Now, even when the hiking trails there are closed in winter, you're not going to be bored up there because there's just so much to see. I do want to go back there in autumn though and actually do the hiking trails. The reason they're closed off in winter is because on top of the mountain there's actually snow, and there's also a danger of avalanches, so that's why the hiking trails are closed. But yeah, so that's another reason to go back there. Like, I needed another reason to go back there. It's just so beautiful, like wow. And then on one side you have the view of the villages below, and on the other side you have the view of the actual Alps, which is also quite freaking stunning. Like, seriously, I'm Dutch, we don't have mountains in the Netherlands. So I'm always impressed by mountains, but the Alps, they're just something so special. Like, just the spikiness and just, oh, they're like that perfect like image of mountains. Like, oh, I love it. Also, there's like a complete winter wonderland up there. There used to also be skiing down there, like there's still skiing, like there's still a skiing park down the mountain, but For the last 2 years there just hasn't really been a lot of snow, unfortunately. Now they're lucky there because our tourism doesn't rely on the skiing, it relies mostly on the castle, so that's one thing. But still, I'm glad that at least up the mountain there's still snow, because I've never been one for like sunny beaches on vacation. I've always preferred mountains and snow and ice. And you really get a lot of snow and ice up the mountain, and it's just absolutely beautiful to see. The only downside I can think of going up there is you're going to make sure you have to make sure that you have enough like memory space on your phone or your camera or whatever, because there's just so much to take pictures of. Like, all the views are freaking beautiful. Like, look at the mountains, like, wow. So yeah, you don't want to know how much hours basically of footage I shot up there. You don't want to know how many gazillion pictures I took. Let's just say that I have, like, for the next 50 years enough pictures of the Alps to share them every single day on Instagram if I would want to. Yeah, it's just, oh, the view is so nice. And overall, even when you're done with sightseeing and all the like official touristy things, it's totally worth it to just go take a hike and enjoy the views of the mountains and the nature. If you don't want to hike up the mountain, there's just so many nice views even if you stay at the ground. And weirdly enough, everything is completely flat until you actually get to the mountain, so you can actually walk quite far without having to climb and still have really nice views. But up in the mountains as well, with like the mountain trails and like the little streams of water where it runs down the mountain, there's just so much to see. And like, I really love nature and I really love views like this, like, and just walking through it, it's just really cool. Now, I will admit that if you want to hike up the mountains, you do need to be fit. Because it's very steeply upwards. You really have to climb at parts. And really just have to like ignore your fear of heights if you have a fear of heights. But it is worth the climb. Like, I climbed up there as well. I definitely want to do the full trails in autumn. Yeah, it's just... But it is a bit of a hike. But you just get treated on such nice views. I was also lucky enough that I was there on like 3 days with like completely different weather. Like, one day was really sunny, one day was rainy, and another day was misty. And especially on the misty days, like, it seriously looks like something from a fantasy novel. Like, some people would probably say Lord of the Rings. I gotta admit that I first thought of the Mystic Knights of Tirnanok. Neither of those take place in the Alps, but that's beside the point. Like, oh, looking at it like in the mist, and it looks so like mysterious and cool, and like you can really imagine that like knights in the Middle Ages just walked around there on like journeys, and just I really love those kind of views. Like, I love it when it's sunny, but I gotta admit that like I also absolutely love it when it's misty like this. And so in conclusion, I walked about 25,000 steps per day, which is about 18 kilometers per day on average. I don't know how many miles that is, you can just count that yourself, I'm bad with numbers. and about 67 stairways. Yeah. And to fuel all that, I bought my food at the local supermarket. There is actually a really good Italian restaurant at the hotel as well, but just I don't eat that much in one sitting, and if I go to a restaurant with another person, I can just do part of my food on their plate, and if I'm alone, I can't do that. So yeah, I end up just not going to a restaurant just because I just feel it's kind of rude if I don't eat like everything on my plate. But I just can't because it's just too much for me. So yeah, I ended up going to the supermarket for food instead and just sat on my chair with my food and enjoyed SpongeBob SquarePants. Now I also bought some souvenirs because I just couldn't help myself. I bought a book last year, so this time I wanted some other stuff. I was really on the fence about this mug because I was like, do I need another mug? No, I totally do not, but it was just too gorgeous not to buy. They had multiple designs, but just a dark blue with like the gold, and oh, it's just so pretty, so I just had to have it. And I also bought a music box. I think it plays the Swan Lake. But yeah, it's just, oh, the design is so gorgeous. And that brings us to the end of our time in Schwangau. It was a really fun week. I really enjoyed it here. And I definitely want to go back. Yeah, just the end of a vacation is always a bit bittersweet because, you know, it's the end of a vacation. But then again, it leaves space open to make new vacation plans. Now I already have 3 more trips planned this year. So Schwangau is going to be next year. And then I want to go there in early autumn to hopefully do all the hiking trails. But yeah, it's just a view out the window of the hotel room and everything. It's just, it's an amazing place. And if you like history and mountains and nature and active vacations, it's definitely something I recommend. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please click the like button. It would really help me out because it makes YouTube suggest my videos more often to people. Yeah, right. And if you want to see more of my videos, you can always subscribe to my channel. I mostly do gaming videos these days. I still sometimes do makeup tutorials. I try to do them more often. And also regularly vlogs. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. And I really hope to see you next time. Bye!